Hello, everyone. I guess we're ready to start. Welcome, everyone online. I think we have 3 or 4 people online. I don't think they're going to be able to talk to us, but our good friend will take care of the chat and let us know. So welcome, greetings. So yeah, I have kind of an ambitious topic about the arts, and I'm just glad to talk with you. I've enjoyed the part of the conference that so far. My name is Rolf. My last name is Stavig. I'm a social worker down at UC Health. I've been there for about 10 years. I work with some thyroid cancer patients and also the head and neck department, and I work in urologic oncology as well, so prostate cancer, renal cancers, those kinds of things. So I left it kind of broad on the arts, and I would just like to ask if there are some artists here. Let's see, everybody raise your hands if you like. We've got one back there brave enough to raise a hand. You know, I think the arts reach pretty broadly. I should just let you know that I was invited to do this and wanted to do this because of a writing through cancer group. And so my primary orientation is writing. There is a little participation today. So if you have a pen or a piece of paper, it's kind of asking a lot, I know. But one of the beauties of writing is it is accessible. It doesn't take too much to get started with it. So this Writing with Cancer group that I'm telling you about, thank you for getting your pens and papers out, is through a place called the Lighthouse Writers Workshop here in Denver. Has anybody ever heard of that? Lighthouse Writers. It's wonderful. If you're interested in writing, I would strongly recommend it. They just moved into a new building. For about the last 5 years, we've been doing this Writing with Cancer group. And so we have people with cancer who join us, and we have a prompt. And we're going to do a little bit of that today, just to give you a sense of what we do, and also a chance to express yourselves. I didn't quite believe that we only have one person who's agreeing to say he's an artist. I'll bet we have some on video. If you want to have anybody chime in on the chat on what kind of art you do. Do you mind me putting you on the spot and telling me about yourself?
My name's Katana. I'm a graphic designer, and I currently do marketing and communications for a health center.
Nice. And I highly recommend Vicky Mackey's going to be at 4:15. Does anybody know Vicky? Isn't she great? She's a colleague of mine from UC Health, but she's gone on to such bigger and better things. And she's also speaking tomorrow on sort of the science of creativity and the importance in, what would you say, discerning our mental health, contacting our own reality, contacting a deeper reality through the arts. And by that, I would include spectators. I would include everyone's ability to participate. So that's why we're going to have a little bit of participation. He's going to cue up a little bit of music. Before we go into that, though, can you all just tell me, maybe, I guess you have to raise hands, but about an art form that resonates particularly for you? You know, with cancer, we all have to dig deeply to find the strength to put meaning to things. Part of that is narrative. Part of that can be done through writing. You know, you can let some feelings out. You can shape your feelings. Maybe it's painting, maybe it's theater. Does anybody have anything that they would like to share, maybe about a particular art form that resonates or that you find helpful or satisfying? Go ahead and say your name too, Kelly.
My name's Sarah Oltman. I'm from Dallas. I'm actually a thyroid surgeon who takes care of thyroid cancer patients, but I knit and I have it here with me. I knit religiously. It is my fidget spinner and I find it very calming. It also helps me stay focused. So it keeps me off my phone when I'm sitting in a room listening. That way I still stay engaged.
Perfect. I love that. Knitting, you know, I'm pretty broad on arts. There's mathematics, I think could be an art form, not mine. Go ahead.
So I'm like the world's worst singer, but for me music has been totally therapeutic. Either a lot of it's listening to it. You'll find me singing it in my car by myself though, a lot.
That's a guilty confession we all share, and 100% music.
My therapy is gardening.
Yes.
I can garden for 10 hours a day if the weather permits.
And what aspect of your mind? She mentioned knitting, but what do you connect with when you're gardening? Is it a different tune or?
I just become one with,
Yeah.
just stay present.
Yeah.
And I get so much joy out of it.
I love that phrase, one with, and the earth. I think there's
The joy of watching a little tomato plant grow this big to this massive thing and just flowers and bushes and yeah.
She's a poet and she's yet to know it, or she knows it. Yeah. And I think also inherent in gardening, there's a certain risk to it. You know, there's the hail, some loss. Go ahead with your name too.
I'm Abby from Long Island, New York. Yeah, you took mine, Barbara, too. I love oh well that but it's all good. Yeah, so I like to play. I don't call it gardening. I like playing in the dirt. I love pulling weeds. Don't ask me why. I do. I like planting stuff, you know, from seed and hoping that it'll grow. We had a whole box done this year that my husband built, a new box. Everything grew, no fruit, but it was cool to watch. You know, and the lantern bugs lighting. And when I was when I was very hypothyroid and just off meds before Thyrogen was really early. So they said, mm-mm. So I went the old tried and true and went hypo. I spoke in limerick. I wrote limericks constantly. Not so anymore. I'm like nearly 25 years out. But I could probably do limericks rather easily. So that was, you know, I like hiking and biking and kayaking too. So
Nice. So what do you think brought on the limericks? I think that's very interesting. And what you connected it with the gardening. Is there some similar aspect, or tell us what came out?
I don't think it didn't have to do with gardening at the time. I think my thoughts were like all over the place being hypo. And things were racing through my head. And I tend humor makes me I'm a yeah, humor, yeah, laughing humor. So, you know, and I talk or write. If you've met me, if you've come to know me, I have some friends here. Yeah, humor is that's my safe spot. You know, I was a teacher too, so that was real easy because you had to. So, yeah. Being hypo.
I totally think comedy is an art form too, and of course laughter. And we haven't really attached the word therapy to any of this yet, and there's a reason not to. But go ahead, Tommy.
It may not be too related to art form, but volunteering at the hospital I find to be very therapeutic because it keeps reminding me that there are so many others who are worse off than I am.
Tommy, you're awesome. Did you have your hand up?
My name is Larry, and I probably have one you have not heard before.
Please.
Okay, the first one was cartography,
Ah, nice.
and then photography and writing.
Nice. And do you combine those sometimes? Write
Um,
about pictures of it?
I do, yeah, yeah.
Well, I like that, a literal mapping of the world. And the other thing I was going to ask about the limericks, did you keep them? Yeah, so you have a mark in the world you can go back to and see where you've been. Maybe the garden too. Do you want to say anything about it?
A lot of them are very dark. And then when I went back to work as a teacher, they were very like flippant about my administration. So I have them. I've never shared them with anyone except my not my endocrinologist, my surgeon. And he said, "Oi, Abby, they're dark." So
So, yeah, I think, in our writing group and in our practice, even today, dark has its place. You let those things have their way. And let's differentiate for a second this therapy versus art. There's a lot of dark art out there. And I don't mean negative, but serious, maybe, deep, tragic, any other words. There's a reason for that. People, I don't know. Does anybody have a reason for that?
I think art becomes an expression of your emotions, and so you tap into that, and what you're experiencing becomes one major muse. So I think it translates very well that way.
Totally, I agree. A certain muse. Was that you? She's volunteering to talk.
Yeah, well, I just said that. I said during the pandemic. I mean, there was a dark time for everyone, and we kind of didn't know where it was going to happen. And that's when I had my cancer, and I actually tie flies. I'm a fly fisherman, so kind of I couldn't even look at my fly tying bench, but I've just been able to fly fish this last summer, and I'm looking forward to a winter of tying flies. But I had some really creative stuff that I did. Like sometimes if you go into a outdoor store, you might see like a hook that goes on the bill of a hat. Well, I made that into a Santa Claus, and I gave that to my mentors, to my fly fishing mentors for Christmas. And I've just enjoyed. I like doing more crafty stuff.
Cool.
I like using that part of my brain. It kind of lets me rest and not have to stress about whatever. But
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm getting a theme here. And I like how you kind of planted the seed of hope when making that fly that now you might be able to use later. Yeah, just like the literal seeds in the garden.
I have so
Here we go.
my favorite fly is called the Bella fly, and I wanted to name it Girls Just Want to Have Fun, but it was too long. So I called it, it's pink and purple. It has a silver bead head, a silver wrap, and it catches fish, and which is the best. But I named it the Bella fly because it's beautiful.
That's a beautiful story. And do you think that story is captured anywhere? Do people know the Bella Fly story? I mean, yeah. Do you ever? Nice.
I'll be fishing in a local water, and I said, "Hey, try this." And a friend, we met up. It was the first time since the pandemic and cancer, and he said that fly catches a lot of fish.
Well, who here watches the Antiques Roadshow? Yeah. So the provenance. She's got something to say.
no. I was going to say, so anything that you make, the flies, you should hang on to them, bring them to the next conference, and we can auction them, and you can have the story. That would be perfect if you're so inclined. If not, thanks for sharing.
That's totally perfect. And we're having a little connection of the minds, and we have that in our writing group. The provenance always adds value. So if you can write the thing up and sign it, by gosh, when you're famous, it'll be worth 10 times as much. So, but that takes a little bit of a stretch. So, well, great. We've got a creative bunch here. Has this stimulated anybody else to say what their hidden hobby is?
One we haven't covered yet is dance. So I actually was a dancer and I love to watch dance. So that's, I mean, you can express all emotions through your body. So
I love that. That's so powerful. And of course, you didn't raise your hand at first, but it's okay. We're getting comfortable. Our minds are coming together. Yeah.
My name is Jeff. Okay, it's not really a true art form, but I do love walking.
Yeah.
And it clears the mind, clears the thoughts. And I do a lot of fundraising, a lot of charity work. That really gives me pleasure. And also going to see off-Broadway shows. Just the idea of live theater is so stimulating. It's all live. There's no retakes, no redos. And it's just very stimulating.
I totally agree. I think there's a zen of walking. I think you all know what I mean. I bet there's a zen of fly tying. Again, we maybe won't try and zen of limericks. No, sorry. You can push things too far. You can go ahead.
So I went to an art school and I took a fibers class. I did a whole project on my thyroid cancer experience. So I actually made a transparent raincoat, which had exposed, I should have brought it. I had exposed stitching because it was stitching because of the thyroid cancer removal. And then I was showing all the gray on it. I painted a gray on it to like represent the radioactive iodine. And then in each of the pockets, there were like kind of like fortune cookie sayings, you know, how people are like, oh, I hope you're okay. I hope you feel better. There's like negative and positive. So like I would let people pick it out and then take their fortune. Nice. So that was one of the projects. I'm too artsy. I can keep going.
Well, I think you've touched on something kind of almost symbolic, like you have one pocket that you give to others, that it means something. Yeah, but they do. You've already been voted best. Go ahead.
I have a weekly podcast for caregivers. And so I write my own caregiver story and share it in an effort to say the things that caregivers try to keep inside because they feel like they're going to be judged. So it's sometimes I'm processing in real time. So I guess it is on the therapeutic side. And then I put it out to the world, which if I were to think about it, I probably wouldn't do it. But yeah.
Yeah, we've had a number of bloggers and people that write their story narratives, journalism, totally art form, and they're bringing it what's effective in telling stories and what's not. So that's huge.
Rolf, it's not really artistic, but I love cooking. Yeah. And it's there's a zen to it also, and you get to feed people.
Yeah, it's nice to have that output. You mark time. You didn't do nothing. You kind of have something to show for it. Did you raise your hand? No. I didn't. Tell us what you do.
That's like you make eye contact and then you might get the microphone. I mean, to be really honest, during like diagnostic surgery recovery time, it was really hard to do art. And I'm someone who I love doing art and it makes me feel good. And it was really hard during the hardest times to not be able to do it. Like that also made me feel bad about myself. So I don't know if anyone else has gone through whatever the thing is you love. It's really hard to then not be able to like accomplish it. But I will say writing was one of the things when I was the most fatigued that I could manage. You don't have to go anywhere. You can do it in bed, right? So poetry was something that I had done before in life. And when I was struggling, that came back. And then the other one was ceramics, which it was during COVID times. And so you couldn't go and do anything in class, but I found a Zoom where it was just making pinch pots with your hands, which again, like you could be in bed and it was on Zoom. And then as I started feeling better and things opened up, going to classes and learning, this is maybe cheesy, but like the actual act of centering the clay on the wheel, and then the metaphor of like how it really centers you, because you have to be absorbed and focused, and you also have to like let go of perfectionism. So ceramics was one that I learned during that time.
Perfect. I love that. And there's a kind of a ritual familiarity to things that we do many times. So when you connect kind of the symbol and the ritual, and you kind of relax into a space of doing something. But I think you really hit on something. Go ahead.
I'll go since everybody else is going. So for all the writers and the poetry lovers, one of our former poet laureates just passed away. I don't remember her first name, but it's Glick is her last name, and her poetry was very dark. She died at 80 this year, so you can look her up. But I do like a little bit of everything that you guys do, except for you. I would never be able to make that coat. And I haven't done a podcast, but I haven't done that, but I have done fly fishing. So, but I work as a victim advocate with a local police department. And so I go on scene with our agents for homicides and suicides and a lot of domestic violence and sex assaults and DOAs. And I agree with this gentleman. The empathy piece, I think, is sometimes lacking in our world right now. And so it does get me away from my own problems, but there's just pretty much no one on the planet that's not struggling with something. And so it's kind of a nice reminder. It keeps me very grounded. And then, yeah, there's times when you need to offset that with baking muffins or whatever. So it's a little of both. Sometimes I think that dark and that light, definitely they walk together.
Well said. Well said. And I think there's an element to some of these things where it's a shared experience. So it's one thing to get what you feel out. It's another to have somebody else appreciate your experience, or you appreciate someone else's experience. Just as an example, I don't want to lose this idea of brain fog or forgetfulness or losing something that you like to do. But go ahead.
I was just going to say that I'm active in my church, and I was so sad when I couldn't sing hymns. I could not sing. And I'd had, radioactive iodine, and then I had radiation. And it's going to be 3 years, November 4th, of the date of my surgery. It was the day after the election. And I remember just thinking, I had this milestone last Sunday. I sang 3 verses. I sang 3 verses. And I'm like, nobody realizes how great that is. And sometimes I have to kind of push my trachea over to this side. And you can see the difference in my voice, that I just push it to the side. So I've learned these little tricks on how to get more breath. But it's like, yeah. But I don't know if anyone else realized that when you lose your voice, you do become more creative in a different sense. Yeah. And radiation is brutal on your vocal cords. It's a little tough.
Yeah, the metaphor of losing your voice and then finding a new form, a new medium, that's powerful. And or learning to love a different voice. I'm not sure which artist I'm thinking of who's raspy, and I like Leonard Cohen, but anybody else, artists who have
For those of you I met earlier, you know that I'm an 11-year papillary cancer survivor, but my son is a 7-month papillary cancer survivor, and he does 3D printing. And one of the things that was really cool was, so, he was home after surgery. He's in college. And he got his 3D printer fired up when we were going to see the surgeon. He printed him a flexi butterfly, so it was like the first thing he printed after his surgery. And it was kind of cool for him to put it into that directional, it definitely represented part of his healing to him.
Yeah. Representing part of your healing. That's a nice phrase. Do you want to read any of the messages from online? I'm not sure I can Yeah, let's try and include the online folks. Oh, let me bring you the microphone. Can you see him? Do you mind reading my class?
All right. Okay. So first off, Katie W says, "Hi, Abby. I thought that was you." Same. The same Katie says, "Hi, Tommy. It's Katie from Haywood." And then Michelle says, "I think art, whatever it is, can give us a sense of control and freedom when the world or our health is so out of control."
Thank you. Another theme going, and it does relate to our group. You know, we meet on Wednesdays. I think one session, Teresa, who's my lighthouse person, we had tear gas. She had to shut her window because the protests about George Floyd were there. I think January 6th was a Wednesday. So that was going on during our group. People's personal stories. Yeah, it's a troubled world. But we're getting ready for our 5 minutes, and I hope you people online can also participate in this. He's going to put a little music on. We always do a prompt, and I want to, the prompt will be whatever your form is, why does it resonate with you? And when I say why does it resonate, is it not maybe just you, but you might be tapping into something in the world, tapping into a feeling, something else somebody else might share. And we always say when we're doing a writing prompt, you can either follow it or not follow it. If we share, you know, sharing is encouraged but not required. So if you want to make a shopping list, that's okay. I guess what I'd say though, when our group is writing, there's a certain Zen vibe to all our minds working at the same time. So let's just kind of tune in. Do you want to start the music? And if you can do a time or two, we'll do, how about 4 minutes? Nobody will be scared of 4 minutes. Okay, so go ahead. What resonates and what are you tapping it? Why does it resonate? Anybody want to just take a deep breath, maybe? And I thought there was a lovely thing at my dad's funeral. One of the people came up to me and said, "Are we going to get to sing?" And I thought that's such a nice thing to say. And we would have planned it differently. We had music, but having everybody sing together would have been a nice idea. Sylvia, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I just loved your relaxation. Were you able to enjoy the moment? Did I wake you up? Nice. I do the 4x4, but at 5 by that works too. Yeah. So, how was that? Does anyone want to share or go ahead? You got everybody's hope up for a limerick, but you do whatever you want.
Yeah, I did. I did. Those pros not as quick as before. It's not like I'm looking for more. It was a release. It did bring me some peace. For me, a step towards my cure. So I guess I still have it when I want to.
Anybody have any feedback? What's your name? Abby. So in our group, it's a generative group. It's not a critical group. We're not saying, oh, maybe you should put a comma in. It's kind of yeah, I don't care. But any feedback for her piece? Did anybody like to say anything? It was lovely.
It's marvelous.
Thanks, Ron. Yeah, let me bring you the mic. Go ahead.
I like that it's moving forward. I like that you're not stationary and you have a hope in your cure.
You know, you're holding the microphone. Do you want to share anything?
Oh,
You can sing it if you
I said my thoughts race. So many smart, talented surgeons and researchers and fellow survivors. My heart slows the stream of consciousness because my thoughts race. And I say, you're worthy, Ro, my name. You're here and you made it through an amazing pandemic, crazy cancer journey. You spent a summer helping vets and kids learning to fish. You hiked trails. You greeted most mornings outside, capturing the pink of the sunrise on the Flatirons.
And I like the idea of the mind, because you're sometimes these things work well when we don't filter ourselves too much. That's why maybe the spontaneous, is that what she says?
You read that American Lit. Catherine Ann Porter. It was an American author, and it's called A Stream of Consciousness. And she just wrote down what popped into her brain.
Yeah, you turn off your inner critic a little bit and your inner editor, and then that's sometimes where the best things are. I think you look like you're still working, which is awesome. But anybody else want to share? I'm not going to put you on the spot, but anybody feeling? Yeah.
I write because getting the words out of my head takes away their power, and hearing myself say them gives me strength.
Nice. Short, sweet, to the point. Any feedback for her?
I just think this is all wonderful because, if you had asked any of us or anyone said, go sit down and write, we'd all put on a grumpy face. Like when we were still in school, it's like, damn, the period's going to end and I haven't written a damn thing. So yeah, it's great.
And I like to write, but I can easily go a week and the only thing I write is in the group. So anybody else? Yeah. Or comments are welcome, whatever.
I won't read what I wrote, but but in one of the other sessions today, I had mentioned, I think his name is Alexander Chalau, and he's a researcher at MD Anderson. And I kind of stumbled upon him recently because there's a podcast called the Wisdom Podcast. And so he's gone through different kinds of, his journey is very long too. But anyways, right now he's a researcher at MD Anderson, and he said something in this podcast that I really liked, which is, and it's helped with like the anxiety of the uncertainty and everything of what we're all going through. But he said, just be. And it's very simple, and I liked it, and it was good for the moment. And so, yeah, I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. I like the note of acceptance, and I think it's true too, kind of going with that, not having your inner critic on too much, and being able to rest when you have to rest, and so forth. Grace, that's even better word. You guys are really on it. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Hi, doc. You're the doctor. Just take care of it. What that does, it allows me to transfer my anxieties and fretting and everything onto my medical team, which I trust wholeheartedly, and I don't have to worry about it any.
I like how you were so succinct, and you could give someone that and they'd know exactly what you're talking about. We won't ask you to dance it or put it to music, but who knows about synesthesia? Everybody probably knows. It's kind of what, yeah, your PT. Do you want to give us a little word about it? All right, I can tell you where I'm going with this. So synesthesia, it's just that your sense of smell, people whose sense of smell might present to them as hearing, or the metaphor I'm looking for is that the arts can kind of cross over to each other. Jimi Hendrix famously thought he may be able to cure people with music. Maybe he could, maybe he couldn't, but the experience of doing something at that level with your art, or just the feeling of it, must be a powerful experience. And he may have been right. So I do want to read you a poem. Anybody else have anything? We have some chat people. Sorry, I'm glad that they're participating. And can you hear us on the chat? Somebody could say, go ahead.
So first person wants to know, what is the group that you were referring to?
Yes. So can I have you put the, if you go to UC Health events, classes, and support groups, you'll find the Writing with Cancer group, and you're all welcome to join me and Teresa. You have to hit the metro area, and then it'll give you a chance to sign up. It's free. Also, I would encourage you to visit lighthousewriters.org. There's also a link to this Writing Through Cancer group there. We meet on the second and fourth Wednesdays from 3 to 4:30. Is there another chat?
Where should we go? Someone anonymous says, just putting what I feel into words seems to validate something. I have complex PTSD, and there's a lot of emotional pain that existed before I knew I had cancer. My PTC was also found due to a car accident. CT imaging from REC found thyroid nodules that led to further follow-up.
Thank you for sharing that. I think you're opening up a very important line of the power of naming something and soothing ourselves. Go ahead.
I'm actively involved with Project Healing Waters. And for anyone who doesn't know what that is, we work with disabled vets and we help them get through their PTSD using fly fishing, but we get them outside and we make community. And that's why today is so effective. This is so effective because you're sharing, but you're making community. When we share, we make connections, and the connections are healing.
110%. I totally believe that too. Do you know about Real Recovery, REEL? That's another nice group where they'll do fishing retreats. Yeah. The men.
Are undergoing therapy, but they go out and have kind of like adventures that they use fly fishing too. And it's pretty cool. And there's also casting for recovery. If you know someone who has breast cancer, that is really, really big. And they take you out, they pay for everything. If there's any breast cancer survivors here, you can go fly fishing and have these amazing retreats.
And community. It's true of Real Recovery also, where you get nice food. It's like 2 or 3 nights in this fishing lodge. It's cool, I hear.
Is that all local? That's all local? Is that all local, Cassie? Oh, okay.
Real Recovery is national, but they have trips in Colorado.
Yeah.
Great. Anybody else? So this is a poem by a guy named David White that was sent to me from somebody in our group. It's called What to Remember When Waking by David White. In that first hardly noticed moment in which you wake, coming back to this life from the other, more secret, movable, and frighteningly honest world where everything began, there is a small opening into the new day, which closes the moment you begin your plans. What you can plan is too small for you to live. What you can live wholeheartedly will make plans enough for the vitality hidden in your sleep. To be human is to become visible while carrying what is hidden as a gift to others. To remember the other world in this world is to live in your true inheritance. You are not a troubled guest on this earth. You are not an accident amidst other accidents. You are invited from another and greater night than the one from which you have just emerged. Now, looking through the sleeping light of the morning window toward the mountain presence of everything that can be, what urgency calls you to your one love? What shape waits in the seed of you to grow and spread its branches against a future sky? Is it waiting in the fertile sea, in the trees beyond the house, in the life you can imagine for yourself, in the open and lovely white page on the writing desk? So I love the anything that emerges from the dark subconscious to that liminal state between sleeping and waking. Anything you can do that dredges through the deeper night of us, I think is important and maybe healing. I think psychoanalysis has maybe lost some favor, but I think there is something to that metaphor of a deeper state of being that each of us tap into in one way or another, whether that's through our own minds or, like you said, seeing something on the stage, which for me is one of the most powerful art forms because it involves a kind of collective, a kind of ritual, a dance, and something nonverbal where your emotions, your passions are roused. So for that state when you're tired, when you're not feeling up to it, it's such a great thing to find your show or your something, your talk, somebody who can, connect you, and then ultimately where you can connect yourself to that deeper fount of life, whatever that is. Does anybody want to respond to that, or am I just talking?
You brought up such a vivid memory for me. I remember waking up in the recovery room. I actually wasn't in the recovery room. They had already wheeled me to my room. But do you guys remember the moments when you wake up from surgery? And I remember groggy and in that state that he described in the poem. And I instantly, there was question of whether or not I have nerve damage to my right arm. Well, you can't fly fish if you have nerve damage to your right arm. And I remember waking and going like this. And then going, yes.
That's such a good metaphor.
But I remember that was, I don't remember coming out of surgery before, but that was like really miraculous. And I was just wondering if anyone else thought of that one in that.
Yeah, you've got some takers.
So with my second surgery and going through waking up from that, I don't remember this, but my surgeon, and who's now actually one of my senior partners, and her assistant, who is one of my best friends in training, like as I'm coming out of it, was whispering. So they were worried about my spinal accessory nerve, and so they're while I was waking up, making sure I could shrug my shoulder, even though I don't remember that. But what I do remember is one of my good friends was working in the recovery room, and so when she knew I was having surgery, I told her, I was like, "You need to be the one taking care of me in the recovery room." And so my first memories of being in the recovery room were looking over, and it wasn't Karen. And I have a problem with that. So all of a sudden in the middle of the recovery room was yelling, where is Karen? Just because I was not happy that Zelda was my recovery room nurse, who I also knew, but she wasn't who was supposed to be taking care of me, but just making a big, loud but funny scene about the fact that the recovery nurse wasn't who was supposed to be there. She's like, I'm so sorry, I went to lunch, and when I came back, you were already assigned.
It's a good story. Yeah, go ahead.
I remember mine was kind of the opposite of yours. I remember I was literally open my eye. Well, I didn't even open my eyes. I remember I could hear, and I was waking up out of all the anesthesia and everything. And the nurse, she said to the other nurses, she's sweating. And she had taken my socks off and taken the blanket off. And I was so grateful because I couldn't speak and I was still half out of it. And she knew like exactly how I felt, like exactly. Yeah, I'll never forget that.
Nice. You guys, yeah.
So I like to talk. For anyone who knows me knows that's true. And so one of my biggest fears was, having damage to my vocal cords, although there was no indicator that was going to be what was happening. I was obsessed with that. When I came out, I was super nauseous and I could only whisper communicate because it was so painful to talk. So I had no idea if my voice was okay. And it became almost this obsessive thought, but like I couldn't talk, like it was so painful. And so when I was brought back up to my room, what you were talking about, the first thing I kept asking was like, can I talk? And is my voice okay? And the doctor's always like, you sound, because by then they had pumped me for some stuff for my nausea, and my voice was okay. And like the relief that settled in, knowing that I was gonna, in some capacity, my voice actually changed, but it's fully there, which is totally okay with me.
So when we talk about collecting these stories, I think it's neat because all of you guys have a similar story of waking up, and whether that would bring comfort to people or spur people to think in other ways. It's a full job to what's the word where you collect all the pictures? Collage, yeah, but to collect everything is a big job. It'll come to me in a second. Anything else? How are we doing on time? I think we're over. Are we over? 7 minutes over? Oh, 7 minutes left. Good. Any other chat messages? Okay.
I had this is anonymous, by the way. I had a previous surgery due to an ovarian cyst. I woke up and remember asking/realizing that it had been the simple surgery, right ovarian tube, not staging surgery for ovarian cancer.
Yeah. So it's amazing what you can anticipate even in a fugu state where you're not totally there, but the things that you can imagine or fear or that shows you a little of what's important. Anybody else? Let's see. I wrote while we were doing this. I usually write during the prompts too. So resonate. It's a blue spool unwinding at the hinges, the sky opening its gaping mouth. It's people showing us their tongue or teeth as they might to a dentist or a wild cat. Are you a wild cat? A rasping revolutionary of hope, a trampled survivor with threads and rope, brush and circumstance, all in circumlocution, sharing us with the sky. Well, thank you. So speaking of the word, somebody who collects art for an exhibit, what's that person called? Curator. So the curator of the internet, the curator of all our stories is a big job. I don't think there's anybody who can. I would welcome Chat GPT. I don't care if it like a tool like any other. if it can plumb the depths of the soul or help somebody express themselves, I'd be okay with that. But what do we do with this supra abundance of stories, of experience, how little we really share with each other, how little we even reveal to ourselves? How do we curate our own experience and share it? I don't know. Does anybody have anything they'd say? Yeah. Does it work?
I've been doing it for 3 years, and I continually have caregivers reach out and say, I was listening to this while I was on a walk and I stopped and had to cry because you were saying the words that were in my head that I didn't think I could ever tell anybody. So it's too vulnerable for me, but I keep doing it because I know that there's people out there that are listening and that it's helping them through what they're going through. So I curate my own stories. I bring other people on to share their experiences, and in an effort to create a community of people who can share when they feel like they're not seen and that they would be judged for how they're feeling, what their emotions are as a caregiver.
Bingo. Yeah. That group of people who feel not seen. And who's the worst judge that we all have? I mean, there's some terrible ones, but you know, ourselves. Yeah. So there's a whole nother segment on the power of our own narratives. You know, my dad was an English teacher, 17th century English drama, which means what? Shakespeare, that's right. His thing was John Ford as well as Shakespeare, but the literary critics of the 70s kind of shot above their pay grade and helped create this. They thought that they could read texts like nobody else, and that all the world was a narrative, and that they should then be at the top of the heap because they had this special expertise. And that bubble burst. Right now, the humanities and the English teachers have no place in the world. But that idea took root and has a certain political significance. But we don't have time to debate that. But I think for our stories, for your story and your story, each of us have something to say. And I couldn't say it better the way it may be scary for you, but it resonates. Do you want to, anybody else? Last word? Anybody online? Somebody give us a podcast. Yeah, I don't know any, but do you want to give them yours?
My podcast is the Love Your Caregiving Life podcast. If you get on a podcast player and simply write cancer, I don't know of any thyroid cancer specific podcasts, but a lot of our experiences are all intertwined. So yeah, I would get on and write cancer in a like Apple Podcast app and something should pop up.
Yeah, I love that phrase. I think a lot of our experiences are intertwined, and when we can lay claim to them and name them, I think that's powerful. So thank you so much, and you're a great group of participants. I'd love to see any or all of you in the Writing with Through Cancer group. Thank you, and thank you everyone online as well.